Alright guys, how's it going? It's Goon here. So I'm gonna answer a few questions that I like, FAQ, so pretty much the most frequently asked questions that I get. Unfortunately, I get a lot of messages in like Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, text messages, phone calls, and like I can't answer everyone and I feel kind of like a dick. So I was like, why don't I just make a video, answer the most frequently asked questions, that way they'll know the answer to all these questions that they ask. So I wrote down like the top 7 or 8 top questions that they ask, and I'll go ahead and go over them. So the first one is, what do you do for a living? So I'm an investor. I've been investing since I was 17 years old. I opened an account through my dad's name. Dad, if you didn't know that, now you know. I was 17 and I was gonna turn 18 like in 5-6 months. So I opened an account with my dad's name and I started investing in stocks. I did a little bit of Forex, but mainly stocks. That's what I did the most. And that's honestly all that I've been doing. It's just investing. Once I invested in stocks and stuff, obviously I started making money after trial and error, and I started to invest in other companies, like local companies, local startups, and I started to invest in like so many different things. So I have a lot of different income sources. So that's what I do. I just like to say I'm an investor. I mean, I do own a few companies like goonalerts. I am the CEO or chairman of Montego Wealth Media. That's another thing I own. So I do a few different things. There's a few different income sources, but the main thing is just an investor in general. The next question is, how old were you when you started? So I kind of just answered that. I was 17 when I first started. I have always been into it. I think my dad, he got into my head a lot about investing with a lot of movies. There was a few like Wall Street movies that I really liked and got into. Like the original Wall Street movie. There's another movie called Other People's Money, and The Boiler Room, and all those movies got me really into investing and into the stock market in general. So and I was like, what, maybe 10 to 14, and I didn't actually start taking action until I was like 17. So I've always been intrigued into that. The third question is, how much money did you start with? So I started off with $2,000 from my dad's tax returns. I lost like half of it. I ended up, from the $2,000, I ended up with like 400 bucks. I gave him back the money I ended up with. He kind of gave it to me knowing I would take a loss in it, so he kind of just risked it. He just wanted me to learn and to get the feeling of how like it's real, like it's real money, like it's something different, like the actual feeling of investing. Anyways, by that time I was already turning 18 or so. I was gonna start going into college, so I applied for FAFSA, and FAFSA gave me like $5,800 for the year. So those $5,800 whatever got split into each semester. So each semester I ended up getting like 2,500 bucks. So the first semester, when I was already 18 of my freshman year in college, I started with $2,000. So I used like 500 to invest, and I kept that money to invest. So those 2,000 bucks I invested, again, I blew that account. I ended up with like 400 bucks again, 600 bucks, less than half, I know that for sure. The third time around came in. By that time we were already in the second semester. So it was the third time me trying it. Second semester, 2,500 bucks. I spent 500 in books, classes, whatever I needed to. The rest I invested. For me, fortunately, third time was the charm, and that's when I really started to kick off. And I had already been doing it for like a year and a half, and I started to really get the hang of it, and I started to trade in my particular way, started to create my own methods, and that's when things started to like really kick in. The next question is, there's definitely a cop next to me. I'm trying to like check my phone, very discreet here. Guys, you guys are gonna have to bear with me here. Okay, so the next question is, were you scared to invest your money? In other words, like, how did you feel about knowing that you're gonna lose a bunch of money? at first you do get a little bit jittery and you get a little bit scared, but I had to view it in a different way. So when people go into college and like pay college tuition, or like they want to start their career and start like minoring or anything, major minoring, you have to spend money. So like you spend anything from like $8,000 to up to $200,000. I guess the most common is like $15,000 to like $30,000 for college, depending which ones you go to. So that's the way I saw it. Like I dropped out of college by that time. I was done. I just kind of used them for FAFSA money technically. So I dropped out of college, and I knew that college wasn't right for me, and I didn't want to keep spending money and time in it. So I risked all my money. I obviously had other jobs and I kept saving up. So it wasn't just FAFSA money. I saved money from like work and stuff. I would do Uber. I worked at a car wash. I did a bunch of stuff to keep saving as much as I can to keep investing it, and I kept losing. But I saw it as an education. So like just the same way you pay for like dental work or whatever, like to be a dentist, or like for college, that's the way I saw it, and you spend a lot less. I mean, if you think about it, maybe I invested under like $5,000 in a total of 2 years or so getting started, and that was pretty much the way I saw it. Like instead of paying for college, at least I'm investing my money and I'm learning. I'm creating my own education. And so I didn't feel that bad. The mentality in trading and in investing is very important, and that's what helps you like have a healthy mentality and become like a better investor in general. So mentality is very important, and that's the way I viewed things when it came to when every time I lost money, I just saw it, I'm investing in my future. The next question is, let's check it out. What kind of people do you hang around with? So that's a little tricky part. So I guess it depends on when, because I used to have a lot of friends, but when I got to the point where I was like, I need to focus on my future and I want to start doing my thing and it's time, I started to cut off a lot of people. So I cut off a lot of negative people, a lot of small-minded people. So every time I would hang out with friends, all those friends that just gossiped all the time, talked about parties and just wanted to drink all the time, and like that were just not doing anything, I cut them out of my life. They weren't interesting. I started to get really bored from them. I started to hang out with the people that just kept innovating and thinking about ideas and thinking of business plans and just creating businesses. And like I started to hang around those people because you start to learn a lot from those people. The other thing is, this might sound really cheesy, but there's a quote that says like, tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you who you are. And between that, or like further into that, there's another quote that says your net worth is pretty much the average of your top 5 friends. So if your top 5 friends are millionaires, you're most likely, your average is going to be around like $1 million. You'll be a millionaire if you're at whatever. So you get the point. So I didn't have access to like millionaires. I didn't know any millionaires. I was like, how do I get access to these? How do I start hanging out with them? Like, I don't know any, so that part's not gonna work out for me. And as cheesy as it sounds, I was able to become best friends with these guys through books out there that you actually learn from these guys a lot. So I became best friends with Warren Buffett, with George Soros, with Elon Musk, with Mark Zuckerberg, so many of these, Mark Cuban and Kevin O'Reilly, all these guys became my friends. I started reading all their books. I started learning everything they knew. So like I started to think like them. Eventually I started to adapt the way they thought, the way they figured things out, the way they viewed things in life and investing, and the way they saved money. And so there's no fucking excuse on becoming friends with these people. Like there's books, there's the biographies, there's like all these books that teach, they're telling you what they do, they're telling you what they think. So the same way you would do that with a person in real life, a friend, I became friends with them through books, as fucking cheesy as that sounds. There was just no excuse. Like I wasn't gonna cut it. Like it's hard to contact them. You can't email Warren Buffett and expect a message from him, or talk to Mark Cuban like within a week. Like that just doesn't really happen. So my way was through books. I read a bunch of audiobooks when in the car instead of listening to music, because music is just a lot of shit that gets into your head. I would listen to a lot of audiobooks. So every time I was just learning, and all these little things added up. Like I learned a lot of things from YouTubers, from people starting clothing brands, from me working in general. I worked at Abercrombie and I learned a lot of things within them that I apply in the world now. So it's really weird how things work. So the next question is, who do you look up to? And again, this is gonna sound very cocky and cheesy again, but I look up to myself, not my current self. I look to my future self. So like I think about it all the time, like what's something that always keeps me motivated, or who am I always thinking about? And honestly, it's myself, like in the next 10 or 5 years. So I picture myself like 4 or 5 years ago. I pictured myself, and me sitting in a Lamborghini is what I imagined, which is what I'm doing now. I'm living that now. So I would picture that in real life like 4 or 5 years ago, and that would motivate me. I looked up to myself. I was like, man, like that Carlos in the future is so successful. Like all his successful stories, all his investing, like all his dreams are coming true. Like that's what I looked up to the most, and that's who I looked up to the most. And I think that's important. Like a lot of people tend to focus on other people. Like if you're an artist or if you're a YouTuber, you look up to a certain person, but you start to think and you start to do things their way, when the whole point is to start doing things your own way. So I think it's important to look up to yourself, like create that image, or that person that you want to be in the next 5 or 10 years, and picture their life, imagine their way they're doing things, imagine them having their own interviews, whatever the heck. I imagine myself having my own interviews all the time, and then they started happening. So that's really important. That's another thing that I believe helps a lot in life. And yeah, that pretty much wraps that part up. Let's see what the next question is. How does it feel now that you have made it? So I never feel like I've made it, and I think that's both a good thing and a bad thing. It's a bad thing because I never feel satisfied. Like I bought the Lamborghini, and I bought houses, and I bought 3 other cars, and like so many things, and like sure, it's fun and it's addicting, and it's like you feel pleasure and stuff, but it doesn't stay. I feel like I have to keep moving, and I think that's important because I don't settle. So think about it. What if I just felt right now like I've made it? I would start working less. I would start focusing on my future less. I would start to be more relaxed and chilled back. So I would start to kind of fall down and slow down, and I think that's why it's important for me to stay motivated, and to think I don't have enough, because I want to keep going. I want to keep doing it. I never have enough. People ask me all the time, like, okay, now that you're a multi-millionaire, what's the number that you'll get into that you'll feel satisfied? Like, I don't feel satisfied. I don't think it'll be 10, 20, 50 million. Like there's no number for me, and I think that's important because I'm gonna keep thriving to keep like pushing myself for further things. So finally, the last question is, what are some tips that you would give out to someone who's ready to chase their goals? This one divides into 2 different things. So there's the ones that are like crazy about money and want to be successful, have a lot of money, and have like successful goals about money, I guess. And then the other people are more like singers, YouTubers, like art people, or like dancers, like that goes more into like that kind of stuff, or like I want to be the best chef, I want to be the best dentist. So it divides into those 2 different things. So for the people that want to become YouTubers or want to become famous, it's all about persistence, being precise, and what's the other word? Persistence and being precise, being punctual, I don't know, precision. I forgot the word. All right, so think about all these singers and YouTubers. Like the problem that people have now is that they're too impatient. So for example, let's talk about YouTubers. They start making YouTube videos, or singers, they start making songs, and they automatically start thinking that they're gonna explode. They think it's gonna happen within 3 months or within 4 months, and then they see that they don't get that many views, or that many listeners, or that their Instagram isn't popping, or like their SoundCloud isn't getting all these views like they expected and stuff. It's just patience. Like you have to keep going. Like for a singer, you have to make, for example, 100 songs. I think my turn's in here. You have to make 100 songs, and all it takes is one of those songs to pop and to be successful for you to explode. That's all it takes. Like you have to fail a lot of times. The guy that invented the light bulb, I forgot his name, Thomas Edison or whatever his name is. I might sound like ridiculous getting this wrong. He failed 10,000 times creating the light bulb. And you know what he said at the end of the day? I didn't fail 10,000 times. I just found 10,000 ways that don't work to create a light bulb. So it's just about failing as many times as you can and being very, very precise, and just doing it. people just stop. They try too many things so for example, in a time frame of 2 years, they want to be singers, so they start making music, and then they want to be YouTubers. They start trying to do YouTube videos. They start trying to get their career going, and they stuck at then they do that, and then they start trying to invest. And during all that time, they never did one thing enough to start to master it. So they never gave it enough time to start thriving and to becoming great at it. Within those 2 years, they did this for 3 months, and then this for 4 months, this for 6 months. Eventually, so much time happened those 2 years, and you think you sucked at everything. You think it's hard. You start to get demotivated, and that happens very often. So find what you want to do. Find what you love. Something that doesn't feel like work. That you could wake up every day and just do it without thinking it's work. And just do it. I don't care if it takes 3 or 4 or 5 years. Like, I've been doing this for like 6+ years, and it pays off. Trust me, at the end of the day, all your hard work and everything you do pays off, and it's super awesome and important. I'm gonna stop here because I'm gonna arrive somewhere, but I want to keep making the video. So that's pretty much it on that part. What else is next? For the people that want to make money, it's really just about being very cautious with your money and being careful with all that kind of stuff. You want to you see, the problem that a lot of teenagers have, since that's the kind of target that I'm kind of hitting for, is these people are they do things that they shouldn't be doing, and they start spending money that they really don't have. So I mean, I fell in that issue. For example, like, I was 16 to 18 maybe, and I had a Jeep that I was paying like $500 a month with. Like, at the end of the day, that car depreciated and cut in half so bad. So when that year or 2 years, 3 years passes of me paying that car, that's $20,000 gone to trash. Like, I think people need to focus and downgrade. Like, live shitty, live as poor as you can to save as much as you can, and invest. Nothing's going to be more important than investing, and every time you take a loss, you learn something that you shouldn't do for the next time. Whether you shorted a company in the wrong spot, like, all these things add up, and you start learning. Like, you could talk to all my friends and you'll understand what I did. Like, I literally unplugged my washer and dryer, I unplugged my coffee maker, I unplugged all the light things that I didn't use. I have a lot of tanks and fish stuff and like reptiles. I unplugged all their lights, I unplugged everything. Every time my phone was being charged, I unplugged it. I made sure all the lights were off. All those little cents and like dollars that I was saving within that year, pretend I saved $100 or $200 that year. Those $200 were invested, and those $200 turned into like $1,000. So doing that 6 times, that's like $6,000 that you're profiting. And in those $6,000 you invest, and then they become even more and more. So all those things add up. That's just one example. The other examples are like eating at home and saving as much as you want. Fucking use coupons. I use coupons all the time, even to this day, and people always laugh at me. Like, I still unplug a bunch of this shit at my house. I leave and I unplug the coffee maker, the washer machine, and people laugh at me. They're like, bro, you're like a millionaire. Why are you unplugging all this shit? Because I like to save money. Like, I'm careful with money. If you think about all the money that's going into the rich people's or wealthy people's worlds, because they know how to take care of it. So that's why all that, you see that transition. Like, all the money is going to the people that know how to take care of the money, and it's leaving from the people that don't know how to take care of their money. So that's something that's just super important. There's a lot more that I could go into detail, and I'll make that into a whole nother video. I'm going to cut this one a bit short. I wanted to keep it under 20 minutes. It looks like I'm at 18 minutes or so. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's just all those things, and I hope I answered everyone's questions. I'll make more of these videos to answer other questions and get deeper into certain conversations. This was just like a quick FAQ, or like, so it's just common questions that I get all the time that I wanted to answer and just put out there, because I don't have enough time to answer everyone. I literally get like 300 messages just on Facebook, and then I have on Twitter, then I have Instagram, then I have Snapchat, then I have text messages, phone calls. I have 2 phones because I couldn't keep up with everyone, and like I had to divide business and like family stuff. But yeah, I hope all that stuff helps, and just ask me questions, and hopefully I'll answer it in future videos.